Right. Good morning. Welcome to the Millionaire Book Club. My name is Pirelli Hunter. Side effects of tapping in with me every single morning do include personal development, mindset transformation, paradigm shifts, and the ability to think your way to success. So I'm super blessed, super grateful that you are here. Drop me something that you're grateful for in the chat. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this day. I'm grateful for my life, my spouse, my children. I'm grateful that it's Friday and today's my sister's birthday. So happy birthday to my big sister. I'm not gonna say her age, y'all. I'm grateful for I'm grateful for just being able to be in control of my emotions. I'm grateful for growth. I'm grateful for my connection with Source. I'm grateful for my awareness. I'm grateful for divine guidance. I'm grateful for just life. I'm grateful for nature. I'm grateful for humanity. I'm grateful for every life that I'll be able to expose to this information. Every person that I'll be able to help in a small way or a major way. I'm just grateful for being chosen as a vessel. I'm just grateful, y'all. Grateful for everything. So drop me something that you're grateful for. If you go back and watch this video, drop me something that you're grateful for, please. Um, let's get some good vibes flowing before we get the read started. I'm gonna do the daily word first, anyways. So while y'all doing that, I'll read the daily word really quick. And today is the 11th, June 11th. All right. So today is June 11th, and the daily word is guidance. I heed my inner guidance and work for my success. My mind is full of ideas and plans and dreams and goals. At times, it may be difficult to sort them out and formulate a cohesive plan that ensures my success. This is where my guidance comes in. To receive my inner knowing clearly, I quiet my mind to better tune into the still, small voice, my link to my divine nature. With every plan I create, I remind myself that I need not rely solely upon my knowledge and reason. I also can access my guidance, which I may discern as a persistent feeling or a nudge to do something. If my guidance is unclear or difficult to discern, I wait with patience until I can determine how to proceed. I allow my inspiration to speak to me as I continue on my path. The human mind plans the way, but the Lord directs the steps. Proverbs 16:9. Ooh, that was nice. The human mind plans the way, but the Lord directs the steps. Okay, so guidance, right? Love it. Let's see. Crystal said, I am grateful for God, my kids, family, friends, for the blessings and lessons. I am grateful for this positive mindset. This is truly amazing. It's so amazing. Like, why haven't we always been like these people, right? These cool, positive, down to earth, loving life people, right? It ain't all good, but it ain't all bad. That's for sure. It's not all bad. You got to be put things in relation, the law of relativity, right? It's somebody who would kill to have what we have, the blessings that we have, right? Let's pull us a card. This is the Four Agreements deck by Damiguel Ruiz. Um, this book was all about self-mastery. This was like the fifth book we read in the book club. We currently on our seventh book, which will be ending pretty soon. Okay, we had a flyer. And we had this one before, but that's okay. So this is a be impeccable with your word, manifest your true intentions. Okay. Be impeccable with your word and manifest your true intentions. Regardless of what language you speak, your intent will manifest through the word. What you dream, what you feel, and what you really are will be manifested through the word. Okay. So the power of the tongue is real. And then on the flip side, we had another be impeccable with your word. Okay. So today, let's watch our mouths. Okay. Let's do what we say we're going to do. Right. Cultivate faith. cultivate faith, right? I love how it looked like that's like a seed sprouting right out of the center, right? That's what it looked like to me. Cultivate faith. It says to have great faith is to have great power. Because your intent, your will is undivided. When your word isn't dissipated by doubt, the power of your word becomes even stronger. Okay? So be impeccable with your words. Beat the odds, do numbers, and remain humble. All right. We can get the read started. Barbara, good morning, Barb. She said, good morning, Queen. I'm grateful for God, grateful for the life, grateful for life, grateful for my family, the Millionaire Book Club, grateful for what God has for me. Yes, I'm grateful, Queen. I'm grateful for you, of course, grateful for what God has for you and all of us in this Millionaire Book Club. I'm grateful to see how much we'll grow by the end of the year, right? We already on our 7th book. I know factually, if I was not making it a point and a habit and like now my life work to get up and do this every single day, I would not be on my 7th book right now. Okay, so I'm just so blessed and grateful for that alone, right? Like we taking care of business. We are taking care of business, and it's not no time on nothing, right? We don't have to do this. We get to do this stuff. We don't have to. So it's not no time on anything, right? Because we know we can't even control that part. All we can control is the assumption of the wish fulfilled, right? We have no control over how things happen or when they happen. We can just do our part. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Chapter 23. This will be the only chapter we do today. It's a long chapter, but I'm pretty sure I can get through it pretty quickly. I plan to just go ahead and finish this chapter. I was going to split it down in 2, but I read through it yesterday, and I don't think we need to do all of that. I guess it's just going to depend about how long I'm talking, like in between, but this chapter is all of like case histories. So people who've actually put what we've learned so far into practice, and like it just explains how they did it to kind of give us an idea of what we could do, right? Ways we can start manipulating our mind, calling things in, right? Going from unseen to seen, starting with seeing it in our mind, then we holding it in our hands. And these case histories is good. So we're going to go ahead and get that started. It's chapter 23. If I say anything that resonates with you, drop an MOC in the chat. If you have like a light bulb moment, a breakthrough moment, just like a moment of clarity, that's what MOC means. Drop it in the chat. And all right, let's go. So chapter 23, case histories. It will be extremely helpful at this point to cite a number of specific examples of the successful application of this law. Actual case histories are given. In each of these, the problem is clearly defined, and the way imagination was used to attain the required state of consciousness is fully described. In each of these instances, the author of this book was either personally concerned or was told the facts by the person involved. This is a story with every detail of which I am personally familiar. In the spring of 1943, a recently drafted soldier was stationed in a large army camp in Louisiana. He was intensely eager to get out of the army, but only in an entirely honorable way. The only way he could do this was to apply for a discharge. The application then required the approval of his commanding officer to become effective. Based on Army regulations, the decision of the commanding officer was final and could not be appealed. The soldier, following all the necessary procedures, applied for a discharge. Within 4 hours, his application was returned, marked disapproved. Convinced he could not appeal the decision to any higher authority, military or civilian, he turned within to his own consciousness, determined to rely on the law of assumption. The soldier realized that his consciousness was the only reality, that his particular state of consciousness determined the events he would encounter. That night, in the interval between getting into bed and falling asleep, he concentrated on consciously using the law of assumption. In imagination, he felt himself to be in his own apartment in New York City. He visualized his apartment. That is, in his mind's eye, he actually saw his own apartment, mentally picturing each one of the familiar rooms with all the furnishings vividly real. With this picture clearly visualized and lying flat on his back, he completely relaxed physically. In this way, he induced a state bordering on sleep, at the same time retaining control of the direction of his attention. When his body was completely immobilized, he assumed that he was in his own room and felt himself to be lying in his own bed. A very different feeling from that of lying on an army cot. In imagination, he rose from the bed, walked from room to room, touching various pieces of furniture. He then went to the window and, with his hands resting on the sill, looked out on the street on which his apartment faced. So vivid was all this in his imagination that he saw in detail the pavement, the railings, the trees, and the familiar red brick of the building on the opposite side of the street. He then returned to his bed and felt himself drifting off to sleep. He knew that it was not important. He knew that it was most important in the successful use of this law that at the actual point of falling asleep, his consciousness be filled with the assumption that he was already what he wanted to be. Okay? He knew that it was most important in the successful use of this law that at the actual point of falling asleep, his consciousness be filled with the assumption that he was already what he wanted to be. All that he did in imagination was based on the assumption that he was no longer in the army. Night after night, the soldier enacted this drama. Night after night, in imagination, he felt himself honorably discharged, back in his home, seeing all the familiar surroundings, and falling asleep in his own bed. Now, this is the brilliant part, y'all. So he did this. This continued for 8 nights. Good morning, Quincy. Welcome, King. This continued for 8 nights. For 8 days, his objective experience continued to be directly opposite to his subjective experience, okay? So for 8 days, even though every night he was going into his mind, right, imagining that he was at home in his own bed, moving around his own house, even though really, objectively, he was on that army cot, right? In the army still, had been denied approval for a discharge request, right? On the 9th day, orders came through from battalion headquarters for the soldier to fill out a new application for his discharge. Shortly after this was done, he was ordered to report to the colonial's office. During the discussion, the colonial asked him if he was still desirous of getting out of the army. Upon receiving an affirmative reply, the colonial said that he personally disagreed, and while he had strong objections to approving of the discharge, he had decided to overlook these objections and to approve it. Within a few hours, the application was approved, and the soldier, now a civilian, was on a train bound for home. Okay, so as I was reading these case studies, these case histories, one thing that was becoming very clear to me is that we need to be very clear about what we want, right? We kind of need to be very detailed so we can call it in the right way. So over this weekend, it might be a good time to take some time and just really get clear about the things you want, really get clear about the things that you imagining, right? And if you don't know, do some research, right? If you planning to move into a home, you don't know what home, go find one. Go find a dream home, or at least the area, right? To put you in the neighborhood. But I think like everyone that we read, I'm gonna keep reading, but everyone that I read, these people was specific. They knew exactly what they want and they got it. So we can too. All right. So number 2. This is a striking story of an extremely successful businessman demonstrating the power of imagination and the law of assumption. I know this family intimately, and all the details were told to me by the son described herein. The story begins when he was 20 years old. He was next to the oldest in a large family of 9 brothers and 1 sister. The father was one of the partners in a small merchandising business. In his 18th year, the brother referred to in this story left the country in which they lived and traveled 2,000 miles to enter college and complete his education. Shortly after his first year in college, he was called home because of a tragic event in connection with his father's business. Through the machinations of his associates, the father was not only forced out of his business, but was the object of false accusations, impugning his character and integrity. At the same time, he was deprived of his rightful share in the equity of the business. The result was he found himself largely discredited and almost penniless. It was under these circumstances that the son was called home from college. He returned his heart filled with one great resolution. He was determined that he would become outstandingly successful in business. The first thing he and his father did was to use the little money they had to start their own business. They rented a small store on a side street, not far from the large business of which the father had been one of the principal owners. There, they started a business bent upon real service to the community. It was shortly after that the son, with instinctive awareness that it was bound to work, deliberately used imagination to attain an almost fantastic objective. Every day on the way to and from work, okay, so look how he made this a habit, right? It became like a routine. Every day on the way to and from work, he passed the building of his father's former business, the biggest business of its kind in the country. It was one of the largest buildings with the most prominent location in the heart of the city. On the outside of the building was a huge sign on which the name of the firm was painted in large, bold letters. Day after day, as he passed by, a great dream took shape in the son's mind. He thought of how wonderful it would be if it was his family that had this great building, his family that owned and operated this great business. One day, as he stood gazing at the building, in his imagination, he saw a completely different name on the huge sign across the entrance. Now, the large letters spelled out his family name. In these case histories, actual names are not used. For the sake of clarity in the story, we will use hypothetical names and assume that the son's family name was Lordard. Where the sign read F.N. Moss and Company, in imagination, he actually saw the name letter by letter, J.N. Lordard and Sons. He remained looking at the sign with his eyes wide open, imagining that it read J.N. Lordard and Sons. Okay? Twice a day, week after week, month after month, for 2 years, y'all, 2 years, he saw his family name over the front of that building. He was convinced that if he felt strongly enough that a thing was true, it was bound to be the case. And by seeing in imagination his family name on the sign, which implied that they owned the business, he became convinced that one day they would own it. During this period, He told only one person what he was doing. He confided in his mother, who, with loving concern, tried to discourage him in order to protect him from what might be a great disappointment. Despite this, he persisted day after day. 2 years later, the large company failed, and the coveted building was up for sale. On the day of the sale, he seemed no nearer ownership than he had been 2 years before when he began to apply the law of assumption. During this period, they had worked hard and their customers had implicit confidence in them. However, they had not earned anything like the amount of money required for the purchase of the property, nor did they have any source from which they could borrow the necessary capital, making even more remote their chance of getting making even more remote their chance of getting it was the fact that this was regarded as the most desirable property in the city, and a number of wealthy business people were prepared to buy it. Okay, so they were prepared. These people was unprepared, but let's see what happens, right? That's why they say, like, it doesn't really matter what you see, right? What's going on behind the scenes that we can't see is powerful, right? They move and shifting things, shifting the atmosphere to work things out for us. On the actual day of the sale, to their complete surprise, a man, almost a total stranger, came into their shop and offered to buy the property for them. Due to some unusual conditions involved in this transaction, the son's family could not even make a bid for the property. They thought the man was joking. However, this was not the case. The man explained that he had watched them for some time, admired their ability, believed in their integrity, and that supplying the capital for them to go into business on a large scale was an extremely sound investment for him. That very day, the property was theirs. Look at that, divine time. It's crazy. What the son had persisted in seeing in his imagination was now a reality. The hunch of the stranger was more than justified. Today, this family owns not only the particular business referred to, but owns many of the largest industries in the country in which they live. The son, seeing his family name over the entrance of this great building, long before it was actually there, was using exactly the technique that produces results. By assuming the feeling that he already had what he desired, by making this a vivid reality in his imagination, by determined persistence, regardless of appearance or circumstance, he inevitably caused his dream to become a reality. Okay? So with that one right there, it was a lot coming to me as I was reading. I just didn't want to keep stopping. But one thing that I was thinking about, so like how they said he did this twice a day on his bus route, going wherever he going. Let's just say if we go to work every day, right, 5 days a week, and we don't even gotta out, you don't even gotta do two, right? If I would do two if I was you, but you don't have to do two. But let's just say you did one. You said on the way to work, all I'm going to do is dream, right? Dream build. Go into my imagination. I'm not going to be distracted by the radio. I'm going to cut that off. The whole time on the way to work, every single day, right? No matter what, I'm going to be thinking about my next place of it, or not even my next place of employment, my next business that I'm owning, right? My next like my next big step. Not focusing on the present of what you got going on, but you know, like I think that would be very beneficial. It would help people get into a habit of doing it. Um, it could be like an escape if you feel a lot of stress or anxiety when you have to go to work. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people, um, that's how it used to be for me sometimes. Like, I'll be good once I get there. It's just actually getting there. It's like, like who really be wanting to go to work? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like I think that would be something good to start doing. Um, what else was I thinking about? Something else was coming to me as I was reading. This is what I was thinking about. So imagine how extremely skilled and how much belief you have to do this for 2 years, right? Faithfully every single day, despite what mama's saying. His mama was like, oh, I don't want you to be disappointed. This might not be a great idea. Um, but he knew about this law, right? Just like the law of gravity, what goes up must comes down. MOC for the queen. Let's go. He knew about the law and he applied it, right? He didn't put his timeline on it. He didn't say, oh man, it didn't work after 1 year. I'm done with this. Or 1 year is even a long time too, right? That's that consistency and persistency that you need. But he didn't say, I've been doing this for a month. I've been doing this for 2 months. Nothing is changing. Who knows over the course of those 2 years what obstacles or what struggles him and his dad was going through in a new business that they were starting. But he did not allow that to sway him from what he desired, right? He kept his vision. He held it in his mind, and eventually he held it in his hand. And it wasn't because he worked so hard and he gained all the money and he was able to just pay for it, right? That's not how it happened. It was actually least action. He didn't work hard for it at all, right? He was on a bus headed to do whatever, thinking about this thing, just making it a daily part of his life, keeping it a point of attraction. I forgot what book that was we read, and it was talking about your point of attraction, right? What are you focused on? Whatever you focused on or what you're attracting. So if he would have had that thought in his mind one day and then never came back to it, he probably would have never got it, right? They probably would have never got that building. But because he did this every day, kept the faith, believed that it could happen for him, right? Didn't care about the circumstances that he didn't have the money, he couldn't get a loan, whatever. And so that's what we got to do, y'all. And I already decided that I'm not going to read all of these because I talk too much, but that's okay. So this is number 3. This is the story of a very unexpected result of an interview with a lady who came to consult me. One afternoon, a young grandmother, a businesswoman in New York, came to see me. She brought along her 9-year-old grandson who was visiting her from his home in Pennsylvania. In response to her questions, I explained the law of assumption, describing in detail the procedure to be followed in attaining an objective. The boy sat quietly, apparently absorbed in a small toy truck, while I explained to the grandmother the method of assuming the state of consciousness that would be hers were her desire already fulfilled. I told her the story of the soldier in camp who each night fell asleep, imagining himself to be in his own bed in his own home. When the boy and his grandmother were leaving, he looked up at me with great excitement and said, I know what I want, and now I know how to get it. Surprised, I asked him what it was he wanted. He told me he had his heart set on a puppy. To this, the grandmother vigorously protested, telling the boy that it had been made clear repeatedly that he could not have a dog under any circumstances, that his father and mother would not allow it, that the boy was too young to care for it properly, and furthermore, the father had a deep dislike for dogs. He actually hated to have one around. All these were arguments the boy, passionately desirous of having a dog, refused to understand. Now I know what to do, he said. Every night, just as I am going off to sleep, I am going to pretend that I have a dog and we are going for a walk, right? Another just routine, right? Every night. And you know how kids' imaginations is it. I mean, lit. It and lit. They is good. Every night, just as I'm going off to sleep, I am going to pretend that I have a dog and we are going for a walk. No, said the grandmother. That is not what Mr. Neville means. This was not meant for you. You cannot have a dog. Okay. Approximately 6 weeks later, the grandmother told me what was to her an astonishing story. Listen, y'all, it's good. The boy's desire to own a dog was so intense that he had absorbed all that I had told his grandmother of how to attain one's desire. And he believed implicitly that at last he knew how to get a dog. Putting this belief into practice for many nights, the boy imagined the dog was lying in his bed beside him. In imagination, he petted the dog, actually feeling its fur. Things like playing with the dog and taking it for a walk filled his mind. Within a few weeks, it happened. A newspaper in the city in which the boy lived organized a special program in connection with Kindness to Animals Week. All school children were requested to write an essay on why I would like to own a dog. After entries from all the schools were submitted and judged, the winner of the contest was announced. The very same boy who weeks before in my apartment in New York had told me, now I know how to get a dog, was the winner. In an elaborate ceremony, which was publicized with stories and pictures in the newspaper, the boy was awarded a beautiful collie puppy. In relating this story, the grandmother told me that if the boy had been given the money with which to buy a dog, the parents would have refused to do so and would have used it to buy a bond for the boy or put it in the savings bank for him. Furthermore, if someone had made the boy a gift of a dog, they would have refused it or given it away, right? But when the universe show out, it's just a little different. But the dramatic manner in which the boy got the dog, the way he won the citywide contest, the stories and pictures in the newspaper, the pride of achievement and joy of the boy himself, all combined to bring about a change of heart in the parents. And they found themselves doing that which they never conceived possible. They allowed him to keep the dog. All this the grandmother explained to me, and she concluded by saying that there was one particular kind of dog on which the boy had his heart set. It was a collie, right? So that situation was like magic for real, right? And I could believe it with a kid because they so pure. They haven't had experiences of being let down or like, you know what I'm saying? We have all of these repressed memories about things, right? And that kind of blocks our faith. That can block our faith. But working with this, you got to have full faith, right? Because as a man thinketh, so is he. And you have to really, really believe. You have to really, really believe that you are a co-creator with the source. You are I am. You are God within, right? You got it. You got the power. We got power, y'all. It's just like, I know all of these movies be fake, but where do they get this stuff from? Like, you know what I'm saying? That it came from somewhere. It came from somewhere. Number 4, case history. This was told by the aunt in the story to the entire audience at the conclusion of one of my lectures. During the question period following my lecture on the law of assumption, a lady who had attended many lectures and had had personal consultation with me on a number of occasions rose and asked permission to tell a story illustrating how she had successfully used the law. She said that upon returning home from the lecture the week before, she had found her niece distressed and terribly upset. The husband of the niece, who was an officer in the Army Air Force stationed in Atlantic City, had just been ordered, along with the rest of his unit, to active duty in Europe. She tearfully told her aunt that the reason she was upset was that she had been hoping her husband would be assigned to Florida as an instructor. They both loved Florida and were anxious to be stationed there and not to be separated. Upon hearing this story, the aunt stated that there was only one thing to do, and that was to apply immediately the law of assumption. Let's actualize it, she said. If you were actually in Florida, what would you do? You would feel the warm breeze. You would smell the salt air. You would feel your toes sinking down into the sand. Well, let's do all of that right now. They took off their shoes and turning out the lights in imagination, they felt themselves actually in Florida, feeling the warm breeze, smelling the sea air, pushing their toes into the sand. 48 hours later, the husband received a change of orders. His new instructions were to report immediately to Florida as an Air Force instructor. 5 days later, his wife was on a train to join him. While the aunt, in order to help her niece to attain her desire, joined in with the niece in assuming the state of consciousness required, she did not go to Florida. This was not her desire. On the other hand, that was the intense longing of the niece. Okay? So that was good. The power, look, just even being able to help somebody else, right? And one thing that was coming through as I was reading this right now was when you doing this, like when I said y'all got to have that belief, y'all got to have that full faith that this stuff actually works. Don't let that other inner critic be inside your head, right? Talking to you as well, saying, this ain't gonna work or whatever your inner critic says, right? Don't let that inner voice, like, don't be doing the actions, but then really in your mind, you don't think that is working or you don't think that is doing something, right? Because then it's not working because your subconscious is sending off energy as well. So if that's what you're really thinking, no matter what you're doing consciously, the action, if subconsciously you feeling like, man, this is not gonna work, it can't work, this ain't true, you know what I'm saying? Then it's not. So really, really know that it will work for you, it can work for you, and listen, you got it. You can do it. You can do it. We can do it. I think we should just start small. I'm gonna start right here, y'all. I'm gonna start right here. We got like 4 more case studies left, but we can do those Monday. It's no rush. We already about to be done with this book. Okay, this book will be done this week, I think, next week actually. And it's 2 books in one. So I didn't know it say also includes awakened imagination, which we will read that as well after we finish the power of awareness. But that's nice. If you took value from this call, if you like these case studies, drop me a 111 in the chat. Even if you go back and and watch this on YouTube, drop me a 111 in the chat. Let me know what your plans is, like how you are going to start implementing the law of assumption in your life on a daily basis. What things are you going to start doing, right? How are you going to start putting yourself as the creator, being able to call stuff in, right? Because that's what we're doing. 111, cool. So yeah, that's it, family. That is it. I believe in y'all so much. I believe that as people, as humans, we have so much power that has been hidden from us, right? And I just want us to be restored to that power. I just want us to all know about the spiritual side of success. All know that least action can work for everybody. Doing law of assumptions, going to Disney in a few weeks. Okay, girl, I see it. Right? So you about to manifest Disney. That's amazing. So fun. What I want to manifest? I'm manifesting a home, y'all. I'm manifesting a brand new big old house for me and my family, me and my kids. We spoke this to existence. Yeah. Oh, you already going. I knew you was going. I thought you already had that stuff planned and everything. But it's awesome. You can do whatever you want to do. The only limits that you have are the ones that you place on yourself, right? That's the only limit that we all have. And we limit ourselves by letting our emotions get the best of us, not knowing how to control our emotions, not knowing how to balance those two sides of us, right? not knowing how to balance the ego mind that's there to protect us, right? So when we shooting for those big things, when we having those big ideas, that ego mind want to be like, oh baby, right? Kind of like in that case history, that boy's mama, she was like, oh, I want to protect you from disappointment. That's what your ego want to do. But we have to be able to acknowledge it, but don't let it control us, right? We can't be controlled by ego, because if we being controlled by ego, then we just every day, we just like a light switch, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. No, we are the masters of our thoughts and actions. We are in control of the things we doing day to day, the things we saying, our destiny, where we going. We not just living this life like, oh, just here existing until I die. No, no, no. We living, and we living more abundantly, and I'm grateful. So we're gonna end it right there. My baby, they canceled school for her. They made it like a half day. It's supposed to be like 96 degrees here. And with like the mask and everything, I guess it's causing like heat issues with the students in school or whatever, which I can only imagine, right? The building probably not very well ventilated, but anyways, they done made it a half a day. So she, instead of being in school at 10 o'clock, now she got to be in school at 9. So I'm gonna get off here and get my kids together. It's my sister's birthday today. I'm turning up this weekend, y'all. I'm gonna be posting on Instagram. Okay, so follow me on Instagram if you're not at iCoachWealth. Subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't already subscribed to that. It's also iCoachWealth. And yeah, y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day, a beautiful weekend. Protect your energy, protect your peace. I am your sister in love. I am your sister in light. I appreciate you so much. I love y'all, and I will see y'all Monday morning. Let's go. It was a great week. Let's go.